Hello everyone, welcome to From the Star Wars Library, where Star Wars is in print, the Force is with the readers, and we finally catch up to Luke and the gang in this issue of the Marvel series. I'm your host, Nathan P. Butler, and this Marvel issue in question is issue number 87, entitled Still Active After All These Years, which could be said for the Marvel series, could be said for the different characters and whatnot, but is actually referring to a weapons system on the planet Shawkin in this particular story. Where can you find this these days? You can find it, of course, in the pages of Star Wars Omnibus, if I can hold it up right. Star Wars Omnibus a long time ago, Volume 5. It's the second story in this omnibus. We are back with Mary Jo Duffy doing the writing this time, but Tom Palmer is doing all of the art, not just the finishes this time around. So the actual pencils and inks are both Tom Palmer this time. When last we saw Luke, it was Luke and Pliff, and went to Iskalon, only to wind up with finding Danny, and Rick Duel, and Cheeto, and then when the Iskalonians didn't want them there, Kiro wound up joining them and taking off with Luke. So now we have 6 different characters all together in 2 different ships coming to the planet Shawkin. Apparently, Luke has essentially recruited Rick and the others to become part of this broader mission for the Alliance, maybe to make some dough along the way. On Shawkin, they split up, and while Luke is doing pretty much all the diplomatic stuff, saying, well, we'd like you to help be part of the Alliance, come be a representative, help us form a new government, and whatnot, we also have the issue here where Rick Duel and his team go off and explore some ruins. They're going to try to basically go through the ruins and maybe see if there's something that hasn't been excavated that maybe they could steal, and make some serious money off of, some kind of old artifact and whatnot. Kiro winds up inside while they're trying to do this, while they're trying to blast the walls and whatnot, try to see if they can get access to anything, and they accidentally set off what amounts to a huge super weapon-style defense system. And it turns out that Shawkin's original inhabitants, the great ancestors long ago, created extreme, crazy super weapons on Shawkin, including this one that's kind of like playing a game of marbles, in that it would take the core of the planet and launch it into space at sublight speeds. Sublight as opposed to light speed. Seems like light speed would make more sense, but whatever. Send it off at sublight speeds, careening into other planets that would then go off and careen into other planets, and essentially bang around until eventually we get a new Big Bang, effectively. It looks like it's going to cause a bit of a mess. The galaxy, perhaps the universe as we know it, is doomed unless they can stop this weapon. Eventually, Luke and Kiro go down to try to stop the weapon, but the heart of it is underwater. Kiro sort of winds up pulling a fast one on Luke and leaving Luke on the shoreline, essentially, so that Kiro, free of his gear, can go underwater. He is Iskalonian. That is their environment, with Luke's lightsaber to stop this weapon. While he's underwater, he's not sure what to do. He gets an insight through the Force. Yes, Kiro is Force-sensitive. That's going to be a part of the upcoming stories. And he spins around at the right moment and jabs into the face. It's like this big, massive, monolithic kind of face to this device and shuts off the device at the last moment. Now, Kiro himself is gravely injured in this process, but he will live. But he needs to get medical treatment very, very soon. So now, the system is shut down. Kiro has saved the universe or the galaxy or whatever, because honestly, in this era, they tend to use the terms interchangeably, at least not as much now as they did in the early Marvel comic stuff. But they need to get him to medical treatment, and our heroes are ready to leave the planet. So we have sort of a continuation of the whole story set up in diplomacy, with the trying to find Alliance members, plus Luke and this group moving along to this new planet here from the end of that story, though it's been quite a few issues since the last time we saw them. And we also get a hint of what's to come with Kiro, with him being Force-sensitive. I think this is actually a pretty decent story. It's kind of a weird super weapon for them to come up with, but broadly speaking, it works out well enough. You may recall, chronologically, by the way, that in The Hero, which is a few issues back, we had the notion that Han and Lando and Chewbacca were going to go off on a mission like this to gather some allies because Luke was already gone, as was Leia, which means that this is taking place probably around the same time as The Hero, and around the same time as the upcoming issue Figurehead, which is going to feature Leia's diplomatic mission. So they're all kind of off on their own little ways, but they tend to focus on one group at a time within the Marvel series here, so as not to confuse the issue and confuse the storylines and whatnot. So, this begs the question, is this issue still active after all these years? See, get it? It was about the weapon on Shawkin, not about the others. Is this an essential read? I would say no, it's not an essential read for modern EU readers. But from the standpoint of bringing Kiro into play, what happened to Rick and Danny and Cheeto and them after Diplomacy, I would say this probably is an essential read. I would put that right there along with Diplomacy a while back and whatnot. It's going to be something we need to understand what is coming up in many of the events in the post-Return of the Jedi Marvel era, which was, an era, you might say, to steal a phrase, of infinite possibilities, at least at the time, because they weren't constrained by any other materials being written for the same time period. So check this one out if you get the opportunity. It is leading up to bigger and better things. With that, we'll wrap up this episode. Thank you for watching, and may the Force be with the readers.